speaking about the salespeople, the people who do sales every day for their job.
You're the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem. Trust faster and better and lead to more long-term sustainable success.
To first of all do before even starting to make any calls or to approach clients.
I'm judging you. I'm hovering over you. I'm micromanaging you. First thing you can do to learn to inspire trust is look in the mirror. And they found a mission in making sausage around we bring families together to connect and to bond.
Oh, the only feel I have is to clap. It's just amazing.
Here's the gate opening. Right? They're saying, wow, they care. They know about me. The boss is right. You know, this matters. This works. Make, keep, repeat.
Welcome to Men of Action. Welcome to Men of Action, and today we have a very special guest. We are right now at this moment on the Synergy Global Forum, which took place in Moscow, and our guest is Stiven Covi Jr., the specialist in leadership and trust. Hello, Stephen.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for your talk today that you gave for this 22,000 auditorium. We're very glad that you came to Russia, and actually your books and the books of your father. So my first question is, how does the speed of trust affect the level of the leader? Like, the higher the trust, the higher the leader, or how does this work?
Yeah, well, you've identified one of the key things of leadership, and that is the ability to create trust. And I find this, that the very first job of a leader, the very first job is to inspire trust. Wow. And you do that through who you are, your credibility, and what you can do, and your behavior. But the second job of a leader, if the first job is to inspire trust, the second job of a leader is to extend trust, to give it. Because it's an act of leadership to extend trust to another person. So if you want to be a great leader, get good at trust. It will make you better at everything else you need to do as a leader.
How can a leader or a future leader develop this ability to inspire trust? Like, if we can look at exactly at this point, how can I learn to inspire trust in other people?
First thing you can do to learn to inspire trust is look in the mirror and ask yourself this question: do I trust myself? Do I trust myself? Because people that don't trust themselves will have a hard time inspiring trust with other people. So you've got to first start with yourself. Self-trust precedes relationship trust, which precedes team trust. And the second question is, first, do I trust myself? Second, do I give to others a leader who they can trust? In other words, is it smart to trust me because of my character and my competence? Do I have the credibility that would inspire the trust of who I am and what I can do? If I can answer those first two questions, do I trust myself, and do I give to others a leader who they can trust because of my character and my competence? That's the starting point to inspire trust with other people. But if you can't answer those questions, if you don't trust yourself, or it's not smart to trust me because I either lack in character or lack in competence, then you'll have a hard time inspiring trust in others. So always look in the mirror, trust yourself, and give to your partners, to your investors, to others, a leader who they can trust, that it's smart to trust me or you.
How can a person actually believe in the idea of his business much more? And can any business idea be believed in for real, sincerely?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because the sincerity does matter. And that will make a difference in your ability to attract people to it, is your own belief in it. And I call this intent. That our intent needs to be one of genuinely caring about the people that we're serving, the people that we're leading, the people that we're selling to. We care. We care about them. We care about their win. We also care about our cause, our mission, our vision, our business, and what it's about. So it's both caring about the idea, but also caring about the impact the idea will have on helping other people, on serving them, on creating value. Both pieces are important. If all I care about is the business for my gain, That's one level of sincerity and caring. It's a higher level if I care about the business and my gain, but I also care about using the business to serve my client, to serve my customer, to add value, and I care about my customer, I care about my people. That's a higher level of caring, of sincerity that will build trust faster and better and lead to more long-term sustainable success.
That's very interesting and deep. How about the idea when a person runs a company, for example, like coffee, a person can love coffee.
Yeah.
Like an entrepreneur or a person who is serving the coffee, he can love coffee, he can believe in coffee. But there is this other side. How about when a person is doing some rubber tire renovation business or some rubber tire recycling business, and when they put it into crops and then they sell it as these little crops in kilograms and tons, there is not so much love for that, for example. And in that case, if a person is doing a business which is not so like hugely social business, what could he do or she do in order to be much more sincere and growing this business as a huge mission?
Yeah, I think two things. First, in any situation, you as a leader, you can focus on perhaps your mission is to build a great team, a great culture, a great business where you care about your own people. And you can always do that, even if you're in a very unattractive, routine business that's not very appealing, but needs to happen. You still can build a great organization, a great culture, a great team that where people feel inspired, and that alone can be the most important thing that you do. But secondly, I also think that if your whole mindset is one of service and contribution, even businesses that don't sound so, attractive on the outside, you can find ways to make them that way. Like, for example, there's a sausage company. They make sausage, Johnsonville sausage. I mean, the whole idea of making sausage is the joke. No one wants to know how the sausage is made. And so that's not a very attractive business. But you know what they framed their business as? They framed their business as, we bring families together for breakfast in the morning. And they found a mission in making sausage around, we bring families together to connect and to bond. So they built both a great business that brought their people together, but they even also added meaning and mission and purpose to it by having a broader idea of what the end of their business was, sausage, to bring families together. And no one would have thought of that at first, but they broadened the idea.
Speaking about the salespeople, the people who do sales every day for their job, there is in your book just like tons of information about building the trust and the 30 points about the trust. And sometimes a person who is trying to sell a product which he or she doesn't really know as a product. So that the sales technique don't really work because the sincerity is not high enough, and the belief in the product, and the knowing the very deep details. So in this speed of trust, could you tell me which are the most important for a salesperson to first of all do before even starting to make any calls or to approach clients?
Well, I think you've identified it, that they need to understand their product and their service, to believe in it, to see the value that it can add, so that they come about every sales situation as saying, I'm here to create value. I'm here to help my client succeed. And that means I understand my product and offering, and more importantly, I understand your needs and what the client is looking for and how I can help create value for that client. And you won't get there if you don't do both things. You need to first understand your own product and service and offering and how it can add value. But secondly, you need to understand the client, the customer, and what their needs are. And if you can do both, then that's where you can focus on creating value for clients.
Amazing. So the person that is doing sales has to become a product expert, a value expert, and the buying criteria expert. and then to become the offer expert in order so he can make the offers which are totally serving the criteria which he got out of the client, like extracting them. How does finding out the client's criteria, his buying criteria, how does this affect the trust of the clients towards the salesperson?
It affects it enormously, because what it is communicating to the client, to the prospect, is that, number one, I care. Number two, I'm listening to understand. And number three, I'm seeking to truly understand from your perspective what's most important to you and why it's most important. Not me coming at you and saying, here's the features, here's the benefits. No, it's me saying, what matters to you, Elliot? What's most important to you? Help me understand, because I want to meet your needs. It communicates volumes to the client. And when the client feels understood, that their criteria is understood, their end in mind, what they're trying to accomplish, when they feel understood, they trust you, because they say, Elliot has listened to me. I feel understood by him or her, and this is someone I want to do business with, because they're coming at it from my perspective, not theirs. That matters enormously. So listen first. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. That is the essence of great salesmanship. And many salesmen go the opposite. They try to come in and try to be understood first before they have understood the client. They do it backwards. So there's a sequence. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's the essence of selling.
The only feel I have is to clap. It's just amazing. I wanted to ask, how does this same idea with getting out of the person his very deep feelings and the values that he counts the most important in the product, or in the values which are bringing the product, like to do with the product. Sometimes you speak about the values and then you get to the product, right?
Right.
How does this work when you're actually an executive and you're doing a motivational talk? How does this work? Can this be applied also in an organization while managing the people?
Absolutely. It is a principle. And the principle is that understanding precedes the solution. You diagnose before you prescribe. A doctor, imagine going to a doctor, and before the doctor even listens to you, the doctor comes up and says, here, you need this. And you say, well, wait, I haven't told you what's wrong with me. I haven't told you what's happening. You wouldn't listen to that doctor. That's prescribing before diagnosing. Yeah. And for a leader, for a salesperson, but also for a leader, is you seek first to understand. You diagnose first before you prescribe. That sequence matters, and it matters not only in selling, it matters in leadership. And so you try to learn what's most important to my team. What matters to them? What matters to this person on my team? What makes them tick? What makes them work well? And how can I understand that and meet them where they're at? It's a different approach towards leadership that is based upon understanding as a means of creating trust. And once you have that trust, it changes everything. I know it does in sales, but I also know it does in leadership as well.
When you have built the inspirational trust, you have the trust, the person is inspired. So you said the second step is to extend it. Could you open this up a little bit more? Like what's deep about it? Like how do you do it? How do you make it with the client and with the personnel?
Yeah. Well, here's what the idea. First job, inspire it by who I am, my credibility, my character, my competence, my authenticity. Okay, now having inspired trust, if I want to be trusted, I not only need to be trustworthy, inspire it, but I also need to be willing to trust people. Because if I'm not willing to trust another person, they tend to not trust me back. There's a reciprocity of trust, and there's a reciprocity of distrust. And it's interesting, Elliot, because I've worked with leaders all over the world, and I find this, that when there's companies where there's low trust inside the company, where the employees don't trust their management, do you know the reasons why they don't? The biggest reason why is because the management doesn't trust the employees. and the employees reciprocate that distrust right back at them. And so there's a reciprocity of distrust, but there's also a reciprocity of trust, meaning this: when you give trust to people, they receive it and they return it. And so our whole goal is we want to inspire trust by being worthy and deserving of it ourselves, but we also want to extend trust to our team, to our people, because when we do that, they not only perform better, they rise to the occasion, they're inspired by it, they want to prove the trust justified. They do that, but they give it back. They return it, they reciprocate it, and it becomes a virtuous upward spiral where trust and confidence create more trust and confidence. And so if you want to be trusted, you got to give trust, you got to give it to get it.
Time to time, there is such a situation when the people are bond, and then there is a situation sometimes when this bond is like breaks a bit, and the people close off a little bit from each other. Or you can have part of the team is bonded, but part of the team is like broken off, like a little bit, doesn't have a dialogue, doesn't want to speak, doesn't want to listen. And how do we make it so that the team, let's use it about the leadership now, so that the team actually speaks up? How do we build the trust back? And is it possible to build the trust back?
Yeah. I believe, Elliot, in most situations, it is possible to build trust back. But I acknowledge maybe not in every situation.
Okay.
Sometimes the nature of the loss of trust might be so egregious, where such a violation, say, of character, that someone says, I don't trust a person, I can't. But I believe in most situations we can get it back, we can build it. But here's the principle, and you know this because it's the name of your show, and which is around of a man of action, right?
Yeah.
And the principle is this: you can't talk yourself out of a problem that you behaved yourself into. So if we've lost people's trust because of our behavior, words alone won't get it back. The only way to get it back is we have to behave our way back into trust. We have to do the actions, not just the words, but the actions. Behave our way back into trust, just like you behaved your way out of trust. And that will take some time. But if we do that, if we right the wrong, we do our best to make it right when we're wrong. If we confront the reality that we lost trust, we take responsibility for it. We then clarify expectations going forward of what we're going to do to regain the trust, to re-earn it. And then most importantly, if we now do what we just said we were going to do, we can find ourselves behaving our way back into trust and restoring it back to where it was, and sometimes even higher. Now, it's not easy. None of that is easy. Very difficult. But the principle is that we have to behave our way back into trust, just like you behave your way out of it. That's why I love the name of your show, Man of Action. Not man of words, man of action. That's another way of saying man of behavior, person of behavior. I behave my way into trust, just like I behave my way out of it.
Yeah. And the behavior is always gets into action. That's the most
behavior gets into action.
Yeah.
And action is the key to building trust. Mm-hmm. Someone said, it's a Dutch expression, trust comes by foot. It comes slowly, but it leaves by horse. You can lose it very fast.
Yeah.
And when we have to restore it, it will take some time because you got to behave your way back into it. You got to do a lot of actions when you've lost it, and that will take some time. But I'm optimistic about our ability to build the trust through our action, through our behavior.
How would you ask for feedback from your team and from your clients? Like, how would you ask for that feedback?
First of all, that's a good problem to have because that means that you have a good value proposition, a good business idea, right? Mm-hmm. You're growing, you got too many clients and not enough capacity. So that's a good problem. It means you got half the battle won, which is I've got a good idea, a good value proposition, but now I need to deliver on it. And so I think the first step is to recognize that if I just get another client but don't add the value, it will not be sustainable. So I've got to focus on always creating value for clients, not just in my sales pitch, but in the actual delivery. Because if I do, that will be sustainable. If I don't, then mine will be a short-term business and I won't sustain it. So that's the first thing, is recognizing the need to always deliver value. But then the second thing would be to have a whole mindset of continuous improvement, of getting better. That's one of the behaviors that builds trust. Get better. It's a mindset. The Japanese call it kaizen, continuous improvement, always getting better. And so I come in and say, what's working well? What should I continue? What should I stop? What should I start? That's a quick way of getting feedback in 3 areas. What do I continue? In other words, what's working? What do I stop? What's not working? What should I start? What do I need to be doing? Continue, stop, start. That's a quick way of getting some feedback from a client, from a colleague, from a peer. What should I continue? What should I stop? What should I start? And that way I don't make it such a long formal survey. And maybe there's a time for a survey too. That could be very helpful. But this is a quick way of always be improving, always trying to get feedback. And with every client engagement, I'm always asking, how did it go? Yeah. What should I continue? What should I stop? What should I start?
Do you have an email questionnaires?
You could do it by email, you could do it by survey, formal, you could do it in interviews, you could do it informally as you're just engaging with the client. How did the engagement go? And here's a good test of the value you're creating. How willing is the client to be a reference for you?
How satisfied are you with the service that we give you, and are you satisfied in such a way that you would recommend us to a friend or a family member? Did we deserve your recommendation?
Exactly. Did we satisfy you, and did we satisfy you enough that you would put your own reputation on the line to say, I recommend you work with Elliot. I recommend you work with this company because I can trust them and you can too. And that is the ultimate demonstration of value created and of a trust relationship, that they would recommend you to another. In fact, the data around the Net Promoter Score, the whole idea is the number one question you can ask a customer, the ultimate question, as Frederick Reichheld said, is how likely are you to recommend this product or this service to a friend or to a colleague? And and the higher on a 0 to 10 scale, when they're at a 9 or a 10, that's high trust. That is, they would put their own reputation on the line. But if they're 0 to 6, they're a detractor, and 7 to 8, they're passive. Even 8 sounds pretty good, but they're not quite ready to put their reputation on the line. And so it's a great test of the value that you've created. And it's also a great illustration of the speed of trust in action, because referral business is the speed of trust in action. Think about it, Elliot. Referral business is your customer telling your prospect that they should trust you. And there's a transference of trust coming from your customer to your prospect. Yeah. And your prospect becomes a new customer faster and at less cost because of the transference of trust.
Yeah, because we set on a line which there is already trust in it.
There's already trust.
Yeah, so we put our idea or our product or the trust to us with the trust that person already built. And that's the fastest way for spreading the business.
Fastest way to spread the business, referral business, word of mouth, and it's all speed of trust in action. See, I make the point on the idea of speed of trust is that trust always affects 2 things, speed and cost. And when trust goes down in relationships or on teams or with prospects or customers, when trust goes down, speed goes down with it. Everything takes longer, cost goes up, everything costs more. That is a tax, a low trust tax. But the good news is that the converse is equally real. And when the trust goes up in the relationship or with the prospect, with the client, with your own team, when the trust goes up, the speed goes up with it. Everything happens faster, the cost comes down. It costs us less. That is a dividend, a high trust dividend. That is the speed of trust in action. Referral business is the speed of trust in action.
Gotcha. Speaking about you as a business trainer, speaking about you as a speaker, you're a very big leader as a speaker and as a person who has built a company. You were a CEO for very many years, and you built a company which is #1 in building the leadership inside the organizations. So with this, I want to ask you, visit Russia quite seldom, and I know that you are planning to visit Russia in 2018. If a person that is watching us is planning to come and would like to be for a day or several days with you on a training, when are you planning to visit, and which city would it be?
Nothing is finalized yet, but the intention is to come sometime in November 2018, and we have an office here, Franklin Covey, Russia, and Dmitry is our leader, and he's the general manager, and the idea would be likely to do something here in Moscow, possibly something in St. Petersburg, and the premise would be this: 3 things. First, I will show how there is a business case for trust, how it's not just some nice, soft social virtue, but how trust is financial, how it affects speed and cost, how it affects value and sales and growth. You know, think about sales. Sales is trust monetized. It's just actualizing trust in the marketplace. That's the first thing. I'm going to call that the business case for trust. The second thing they'll learn is the leadership case for trust, about why trust is the most important competency of leadership needed today, more than any other, the ability to create trust. And the reason that's so is because if we get good at trust as leaders, it will have a multiplier effect on everything else that we need to do. Our ability to collaborate, to partner, to team, to create, to innovate, to execute our strategy, all goes up with trust. And when there's low trust, it all goes down. So trust is the one thing that changes everything. Amazing. That's the leadership case for trust. So those are the first 2 points. They answer the question, why? Why trust? I'll make a business case for it. I'll make a leadership case for it. If you buy the why, you then want to move in the what and the how. And that's the third point. That's the most important piece. And I want to show people how trust is a learnable skill. It's a competency that leaders can learn, that salespeople can learn, that organizations can learn how to create trust, how to grow it through their credibility, their character, their competence, through their behavior, including the behaviors of extending trust and keeping commitments and creating transparency and talking straight and getting better and listening first. Some of the things we've been talking about, and how they can behave their way into greater trust, and how it's learnable. And that's where we give tools and processes, and we make trust tangible, practical. So that's the idea. And I should be here hopefully in November 2018 with my colleague Dmitry, Franklin Covey, Russia, and trying to impact leaders, businesses, organizations here in Russia.
And the next question is about CRM system, client relationship management. How does knowing the information about the client and speaking using this information affect the trust that we have and the speed of trust? In Russia right now, many companies are implementing CRM system and actually going from an accountant CRM system to a client CRM system, which is more like not accountant number based, but more data based. And because this is very important, as we understand, and we are learning this from you. We're learning this from our West colleagues, that this is very important. LTV actually started to matter in this country. You know, we're like running a bit behind, but still, now that it matters, can you say a little bit about how it affects the speed of trust?
Yeah, here's how it affects it. A good CRM system that focuses really on understanding the customer, not just like you say, the accounting of it, of how much revenue we did, but what their needs are, what their interests are, what their key hot buttons are, what matters to them, what their goals are, what they're trying to do. It shows that, number one, that you care, and number two, that you understand, and number three, that you've learned about them. You listen first, and they are influenced by that. See, here's the thing, Elliot. The key to influence is to first be influenced. And so, in other words, if I want to have influence with you, the best way is for me to be influenced by you. It shows I care and I understand. You've influenced me. And when I show that I've learned about you, here's what you're trying to do, here's why it matters. Am I capturing it? And you say, yes, Stephen, you've captured it. You're now far more open to say, and Stephen, what do you have to say to me? Because you feel understood. So the key to influence is to first be influenced. And a good CRM system that gives me meaningful data about the customer and their interests, their needs, their wants, their goals, their strategy, not just numbers, but all these other things, is a way that I'll be influenced first by the customer. And then when they see that I've been influenced by them, they're now far more open for them to be influenced by me. And that's what a good CRM system can do.
How can it save the company money and time when the sales managers sometimes change? So why should the sales manager put it in? Why it's so important for the company and for the sales manager? Like, we have such a situation sometimes in different companies. I see it like in every second company, I can tell you, that the managers carry the information about their clients in their head and they don't put it out in the CRM system. I mean, this is a question which is like a pain for a lot of entrepreneurs. How to make it that the guy actually puts it in? How would you, as an executive, explain to your manager why is it so important to put this code of each client into the CRM system? Like the code, I mean the language that he speaks, the pains, the needs, the wants, like what he got to know, so that he can actually, like, calling him next time says, oh, how's your wife Jenny, or how is your dog Kenny, like in a way that how would you explain it to the person? Like the guy is like, oh, if I get the ideas about my clients out, then they can fire me, or the only value that I have in this company is my client base, so I should keep it to myself. That's what they sometimes have. How would we handle that?
Yeah, I understand why some people struggle. So to me, this comes back first to the mindset. Mm-hmm. And a more productive, sustainable mindset is to have an abundance mentality, not a scarcity mentality. See, a scarcity mentality says there's only so much. There's this big a pie, and there's only so much. And so I want to get my piece and keep it to myself. And I'm scarcity, I think, in terms of I've got to own it. I own the information. I don't want to share. But my mindset is one of scarcity, limitedness. There's only so much. An abundance mindset says there is enough for everyone. There is plenty. It's not a limited pie. It's an expanding pie. Yeah. And the more I can get this into the system, the more I understand, the more I share, the more it will come back to me. And yes, it might take a little bit of time. It might need to change some patterns and some habits. But if I can first try to show the why this matters, and why it matters not just to the company, but why it matters to that salesperson, why they will sell more doing this than if they don't do it. That will make a difference. But secondly, I want to challenge their mindset from one of scarcity to abundance. Now that's hard to do. It's hard to change, but you can give people a vision of what's possible, and how an abundance mentality can become a rising tide that lifts every boat. And that not only will the company do better, but they will do better as a salesperson. And when people then experience this, they enter the information about the client, about their spouse, about their children, and what they like, their interest, and then they use it the next time, and they say, so how's your son doing in his soccer? How did he perform in the tournament? And they say, oh, he did great. Thank you for asking. Thank you for remembering.
And here's the gate opening.
Here's the gate opening.
Right?
They're saying, wow, they care. They know about me. And suddenly I saw that and experienced that. And I say, the boss is right. This matters. This works. And because I just made another sale because they trust me. And they see it. They experience it. And then it begins to expand. So it is, at the end of the day, I think the mindset is the most critical thing, but it's hard to change mindsets until people have an experience. So if you can try to help them have experiences with this, helping them, succeeding with it, not just for the company, but for them, that's the best way to change a paradigm, is to have people say, I did this, it worked. I'm going to do it again.
Right. So the deepest catch that I got from what you said right now, and what I understand our listeners should hear into this, is that the conversation with the staff member should be multiplied by the trust factor. And this trust factor should never be forgotten about, because this is what the actual result depends upon.
Absolutely. The trust will change everything. And there's two key behaviors that are part of the behaviors that build trust that can be modeled here. To clarify expectations, and that's a two-way process, like you say, is more democratic. It's not just authoritarian, you do this. Because if you kind of mandate, at best you'll get compliance, but you won't get commitment. People have to choose commitment. And they will choose commitment far more when they are involved in the decision, involved in the process. If there's no involvement, there's no commitment. So if you want people committed, involve them in the problem, involve them in the opportunity, involve them, make it a two-way, a dialogue, clarify expectations of each other, give the why behind the what. I call that declaring your intent. Here's why I want you to do this. Here's what you're going to gain from this. Here's why this matters. I share it. So they say, oh, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'll think about that. And I'm not mandating. I'm not my goal is not compliance. My goal is commitment. My goal is inspiration. I want to inspire my team. I want to listen to them. I want to trust them. I want to extend trust. But part of that includes we mutually understand our expectations of each other. And I declare my intent as to why this matters. And then we agree upon a process of how we should be accountable to it. And the best accountability is when the salesperson takes responsibility for him or herself against the mutually agreed upon expectations, versus the manager hovering over and saying, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? No, far better when we agree upon, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Here's the expectations. Here's how you want to be accountable to those expectations. You report back. You judge yourself against the expectations and tell me about it. Versus, I'm judging you. I'm hovering over you. I'm micromanaging you. It's a different approach. I call it trust and inspire instead of command and control.
This is like the reciprocity approach to managing the relationship with clients and with the personnel. Because if the executive behaves as the way you described right now, we can behave like this towards clients if we're sales managers. But also as an executive, if we behave like this, then we set such a high standard and we set such a good example that the person feels this deep reciprocity, this kind of guilt. It's like it's something between responsibility and guilt. And his self-discipline and his feelings actually turn on, and he acts much better towards us just because we set the example. So we're kind of not pulling him into all this story, but we're showing good example.
I love that, Elliot. You're modeling it first. So think of this, a pyramid of influence. Yeah. And sales is influence, right? You know, influence is sales and sales is influence. And good leadership is influence. So here's a pyramid of influence. 3 pieces. The base of the pyramid, the biggest piece, is example. The second piece then in the pyramid is the relationship, that you build a relationship. The top of the pyramid is your teaching, your instruction, your words. And look, example is seen. Relationship is felt. Teaching is heard. But people don't hear until they first see and feel. They need to see the example first. They need to feel the relationship of trust. Then they'll listen to your words that says putting the data in on the CRM system works and it matters. And when they see that you have modeled it, you do it yourself, and you care about me, and you build a relationship of trust with me, I'm far more likely to be influenced by what you say is something good to do. But if I don't see you being an example of that, you don't do it yourself, and if I don't feel like I have a relationship with you, you don't care about me, there's no trust, then when you tell me to do something, like you said earlier, I ignore you. I do what I have to do to not get fired, but I ignore everything else because the trust isn't there. So, pyramid of influence, example, relationship, instruction. But they go in that order. Example first, relationship second, and then people will hear what you say. I call that inside out. That, see, outside in says, you're the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem. It looks at everybody else and blames and, I have to do these CRM systems. I don't have time and blaming everybody else. Inside out says, I look in the mirror. I start with myself. What can I do? And then I ripple out to others and I can help others do it. So I love the airline metaphor. I flew here into Moscow last night. And when I got on the plane, when I left Paris, they ran a safety video. And I'll bet anyone that's flown on planes have seen this video. They're all the same all around the world, where it says, somewhere in the video it says, if we lose cabin pressure, oxygen mask will fall down. And then it says something very interesting. It says, put your own mask on first before helping others. And I got thinking, what if I were flying with my young daughter and we lost cabin pressure and the mask fell down? My instinct would be to want to put her mask on, right, to help her. But they're telling me, no, put your own mask on first before helping others. And why do they want us to do that? To stabilize ourselves, to model it, to be an example. Because if I first get stabilized, then I can help many other people. That's inside out. So before I worry about changing everybody else, I'm going to look in the mirror and change myself. I'm going to be an example and model of it. Then my ability, my influence to change them goes up dramatically because I go inside out, not outside in.
There is the laws of life, this kind of thing, and what you said now that it's very important to cover own's need and then to cover others. Also, it can be understood as that a person should help others, but should never forget about himself. Is there any other different laws you found out which are very recent, like since your best hit, which is called The Speed of Trust? Were there any other very deep laws of life which you could just share, one or two, to finish off the interview with the people who are watching us, with me, if it's possible? The laws of life is understood? Yeah. Like something which you can see in life, in animals, in nature, in just all around us, and in our lives, and how you understood how equal it is.
Yeah. Here's one that I've come to see. I went fishing on a river, and I was with a guide, and the guide asked me what I saw. I was standing in the middle of the river with the guide. He said, "What do you see?" And I said, "I see the river, the trees, the rock, the sky." And the guide said, No. What do you see underneath the water?" We were standing in the middle of the river. The water was up to my waist. I looked down. I couldn't see anything because there was a glare coming from the sun. I couldn't see through the water. I just saw the top. My guide, he was wearing a pair of polarized sunglasses, so he could see right through the water. And he said, "Stephen, I've got polarized sunglasses on. I can see fish everywhere. They're all around us, fish everywhere you turn. I can see them with these glasses. And can you see them?" And I said, No, I can't. "But I believe you." And he said, "No, don't just take my word for it. Put these on." So he handed me an extra pair of polarized sunglasses. I put the glasses on, and the moment I put the glasses on, now I also could see through the water. And sure enough, just like the guide said, there were fish. They were everywhere. They were all around us. They were right there in front of us. Now, Elliot, here's the thing. The fish were there all along. They were always there. I just couldn't see them until I put on the glasses. But the fact that I couldn't see them didn't mean that they weren't there. They were there. They were always there. But I just had to put the glasses on. I believe those glasses, if trust is the same way, the effect of trust, the relevance of trust, the impact of trust on every dimension and aspect of our life, of our leadership, of our relationships, it's there. But sometimes we don't see it. We don't have the glasses on. We don't see it. But it's there. And the fact that we don't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. It is there. It's always been there. So I say to people, look at your life, look at your leadership through the lens of trust, and you will see it differently than you've ever seen it before. And you will see things that have always been there, but maybe you didn't see before. And you'll see how trust affects everything. It changes everything. It's impacting everything. And if you're not trusted as a leader, people are not going to be inspired by you. They're not going to be engaged by you. They won't collaborate. They won't give you real feedback because they're scared. They don't trust you. But if you do build that trust, it will change everything. They'll be real and open and candid with you. They'll give you feedback. They'll be willing to take a risk and make a mistake and learn. And you'll collaborate, you'll partner, you'll team, you'll create, you'll innovate. And so I've learned to look through life through the lens of trust. And it is kind of a metaphor to put on the trust glasses. And you'll see how trust changes everything. Most organizational performance problems are really trust problems in disguise. We just got to put the glasses on and see what's always been there. So that's a large metaphor for my key learning in life, is that trust is the one thing that changes everything. But most people, they neglect this, they ignore it, they take it for granted until they lose it. Then that's oftentimes too late. And it's far better to become aware of it up front as a leader, how trust changes everything.
I have this little question which built up while you were speaking about the fish. How is it at this times, right now, content in social network is working as a trust factor? How does it raise it?
I would just say this, that the more you can add value with your content, the greater the trust you will create. Especially right now, and also if your content is true and accurate, because the whole idea of fake news, if the content is not accurate and it's coming from you and your social network and it's not accurate, people say, I don't know if I can trust what's there. But if they learn it's accurate, it's truthful, number one, and number two, it adds value. It's meaningful to me in my life. That's a great way of building trust fast, is I give them things that are true and that create value for them. Content that is meaningful. That builds trust when they say, it's true, I can trust what I'm hearing from Elliot, and it matters to me. He's always giving me things that really make a difference in my life. He's got me in mind, not just giving useless information that doesn't matter. And so two things, truth and then value creation. If you do those two things, content could be a great means of building trust.
What would you do if right now in 2017 you were a 20 to 25-year-old and you would be a salesperson and you would be selling on the phone? Because this profession, selling on the phone and speaking on the phone, connecting with the clients, is like very top still, and person can get good money working on this as a salesman on the phone. What would you do? How would you spend your day in terms of different actions in order to get the results up? Like say you would work from 10 in the morning to 7 in the evening, for example, or to 8 in the evening. How would you spend your day? Just so we understand, because right now with your experience, you would be probably going up in like 1 year, flying like that.
I'm going to focus on the activities that will help me create the most value, because the more value I create and the more trust I build, the more sales I will make. And when I make more sales, I'll get more opportunities, and it becomes a virtuous upward spiral. So I'm going to focus on those things that create the most value, that build trust the fastest. And so that will include things like this. Anytime I have a client conversation, I'm going to try to listen to understand, and then I'm going to try to make the client a commitment, a value-added commitment. Because the fastest way to build trust with a client is to make a commitment and to keep it. Make another commitment and to keep it. And repeat that process. Make, keep, repeat. Make, keep, repeat. You can build trust, you can build it exceptionally fast that way. Now, if I not only keep the commitments that I make, if I give value-added commitments. So I might say, client, you know, if I understand you right, here's what you're trying to do. Well, there was an article on that just came out. Let me send that to you, and you can look at this and to see how this might fit into your thinking. And then, right, I get off the call and I follow through on my commitment. I just made a commitment. I now just do what I said I was going to do. I keep the commitment, and I say, client, as promised, here's the article I told you I would get. And it wasn't just any article. It was an article that was adding value to them. And I keep doing that. Make and keep commitments. Repeat the process. Make, keep, commit. It becomes make, keep, repeat. Make, keep, repeat. It becomes an upward spiral. I can build trust fast. If I do that, if I build trust fast, I'll be able to create more value. If I create more value, I'll make more sales. If I make more sales, I'll get more opportunities. And so I'm always looking for the highest leverage activities that help me build trust and create value for clients. So listen first to them to understand, and then make and keep value-added commitments. It's a fast way of building trust and making sales. Again, sales is trust monetized. I put it into action. I put it into practice.
To all our viewers, please become the men of valuable action, and that will allow you to build the trust with your clients, employees, with your friends and partners. Stephen, thank you very much. It was an amazing interview. You are a great person. Your energy, your flows, the things that you say, and the importance that you bring to this world is just very much respected. Thank you very much, and thank you to Synergy Global Forum, to Grigory Avetov, to Vyacheslav Lobov. Thank you very much for bringing Stephen to Moscow this 2017. We really love your visit, and we would love to see you again, sir. Thanks.
I look forward to seeing you again. It is a real honor and a pleasure for me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.